Today, we are going to look at just one chaupai, one doha from Ayodhya Kand. Okay? So Ayodhya, do you remember what Ayodhya means? Yudha means war. So Ayodhya is supposed to mean that place where there's no war or no conflict. Now, again, I am not concerned with the outside world. We are talking about inside of you. Okay? So as you heard for Saraswati Jayanti, we all inside of us have this internal fight, conflict from the time we are born till the time we die, until we die. Unless we achieve this state called liberation, inverted commas. Okay? And we are trying to understand what that is. Liberation from what? To be liberated means you're trapped in something. Okay? All right. So, we are in this state in Ayodhya Kand, this chapter. Sriram was about to be coronated, and we know the story. Strangely enough, it is called Ayodhya Kand, but really what happened was a kind of yuddha, not so? Because we all know the story. Kaikeyi Ma asked for 2 boons from King Dashrath, and he was forced to basically exile Sriram to the forest. Sita Devi and Lakshman chose to go with him, to accompany him to the Ban, the forest. Okay? Now, what we are going to look at here is not the story. We are going to look at the first, but the doha here on this page. You're seeing it? Nava Gayandu. And on top of that, unfortunately in this book there aren't numbers for the chaupai, so the one that starts Ati Bishara Basaloga Logai. Everyone is with me? Okay. Now, what we're going to analyze here is Sriram's reaction on being told that he has to go to the forest. So again now, remember, Sriram, you and I. It's us. We are trying to learn. If we are put in a position where we expected something and it didn't work out, it didn't happen, what should your reaction be? What goes on inside? So with this one chaupai, one doha, we are going to analyze what went on in Sriram's mind and then extrapolate from that, extract from that what we should do when things don't go the way that we want. Simple? Applicable to everybody. So let's begin. Now the second thing I'm doing, we would focus on the words and sing in the chaupai at a slower rate, no music. So again, over time, the music is wonderful, but again, it has become lost, the words themselves, the beautiful poetry to you, the devotees. You sit down and you listen, but you don't sing it yourself, the pandit or whoever sings it, but you have to sing it. You have to understand the words, you have to analyze. So we are doing it together, yes? So what I'm doing, I will sing the line, and those of you who are reading the transliteration, which will be most of you, you will see various symbols in there, and you'll hear my pronunciation, because it's not straightforward. So for example, just briefly, if you see a bar over a letter, this is a standard, you stress it. So if you see the letter A, it's A. If you see a bar over the A, it's A. Okay? In other cases here, just looking at this one, if you see a dot under a letter, so for example, the last line, okay, the first line you see Ati Bishada. You see B-I-S. So I'm not saying Bisada, I'm saying Sh. The S with the dot underneath it is pronounced Sh, not Sa. Okay? So remember, this is a transliteration standard here, transliteration. So we would all be hopefully saying the same thing. This is why we stick to a standard. Okay? All right. So let's look first of all at the chaupai that we sing together slowly, and then we will do the doha. As usual, we would have Vaishnavi and Vindhyeshwari reading the translation, especially for those who are not physically present or don't have a copy, so you can listen to the translation of what the Chaupai or Doha means. We begin. अति विषाद बस लोग लोगाई. Together with me. अति विषाद बस लोग लोगाई. Next line. गए मातु पाही रामु गोसाई. Again. गए मातु पाही रामु गोसाई. Next line. मुखु प्रसन्नाचित मुखु प्रसन्नाचित चौगुन चाऊ. Notice C is pronounced cha in the transliteration scheme. So it's not ka, it's cha. मुखु प्रसन्नाचित चौगुन चाऊ. मुखु प्रसन्नाचित चौगुन चाऊ. मिटा सोचु जानी राखै राऊ. मिटा सोचु जानी राखै राऊ. Together. जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम. श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम. बोले श्री राजा रामचंद्र की. We have the translation by Vaishnavi.
While men and women alike were thus overwhelmed with excessive grief, the holy Lord Rama called on his mother Kaushalya with joy in his face and fourfold exultation in his heart. He feared no more that the king might detain him.
Okay, so everyone was in a state of grief, and Prabhu Sriram, after learning about his condition, meaning that he would no longer be on the throne, he would be going to the forest, he went to see who? His mother, with joy in his face and fourfold joy in his heart. Exaltation means joy, okay? And finally, he didn't fear anymore that he would have to remain to become king. So keep that in mind. Let's look now at the Doha. So you would see it isn't in the transliteration, but there's a little do in Devanagari script on top. That's the Doha, okay? So the Dohas are like major points in the poetry. You have a range of Chaupai, and then you have Doha, which is a different poetic meter, but it punctuates the entire story. So we will use this tune. You could sing together with me. Navagayandu Raghubira Manu. Again. Navagayandu Raghubira Manu. Raju Alan Saman. Raju Alan Saman. Chuta Jani Bana Gavanu Suni. Chuta Jani Bana Gavanu Suni. उर आनंदु अधिकान. उर आनंदु अधिकान. उर आनंदु अधिकान. सियावर रामचंद्र की जय. Vindhyeshwari.
Raghubira's mind had been like a young elephant newly caught with kingship for its fetters. When he heard of his banishment to the forest, he knew that he was freed and felt overjoyed in his heart.
Good. So the state of mind of Prabhu Sriram. An analogy is used here. The mind of Sriram was like a young elephant newly caught. And the kingship, meaning becoming king, was like the bond that they used to tie the elephant. So when he heard of the banishment to the forest, he knew he was free. And he felt how? Despondent? No, he felt overjoyed. So how do we make sense of this? So devotees, we are just focusing on these two. Now, we go back and we look at the words. I must say that reading various translations, that, sometimes words there, they make sense. Sometimes, it's not written by a native English speaker. Okay? And my wife, Arati, who's a linguist, could attest to this. It's difficult. When you hear Pandits reading Ramcharitamanas, you hear them reading some Hindi afterward called the Arth. The Arth is just a commentary, an explanation. In other words, it's a translation, but in Hindi. Now, that wasn't written by Tulsidas. So different versions of the Ramayana, the so-called Arth, would be different. Okay? But my approach, and everyone has their own approach, my approach is to go back to just the original words, the original poetry, and try to take translations from there. Okay? So let's go back. We are focusing on first the Chaupai. Ati Vishad, Yog. You remember Vishad Yog in Bhagavad Gita? Depression. So Ati Vishad, Ati means extra, more, plenty. Ati Vishad, a lot of grief, depression. So Ati Vishad, basa, filled, log, logai. Log, men, logai, women. Okay? So Ati Vishad, basa, log, logai. There was great depression in the minds of the men and the women. Yes? So we're starting at this point being very depressed, down. Why? As I said, devotees, what gets you down? Not getting what you want or losing what you have. That's it. Not getting what you want, losing what you have. So, all the men and women of Ayodhya were depressed. Because of why? We'll come to that in a bit. The next line, Gaye Matu Pahi, he went to his mother, Gaye Matu, mother Pahi, Ramu Gosai, and Sriram is described as Gosai, as, of great qualities, right? A holy person. So, in other words, the implication here is look at what Sriram is doing because he has the right qualities. So, follow. Okay? Next line, Mukha Prasana, meaning a pleasant face. Right? Pleasantness on his face. In other words, his face wasn't scrunched up. So, some people, you get up in the morning and their face all how and they're vexed and or something happens and you get angry and you start to take it out on people. Look at what happened to Sriram. He lost, in other words, the kingdom, but Mukha Prasana. A peaceful, happy looking face. Chitta Chauguna Chau. Now, Chitta Chauguna Chau. In his mind, in his heart, he had Chauguna, a fourfold joy. Now, this is a puzzle because we know just, being happy and sad. So, what is Chaugun? What is fourfold happiness? Anyone has any idea? I thought happiness was one thing. What is Chaugun? We will analyze that in a bit. So, he had joy on his face and this fourfold joy in his heart, which we have to figure out. And the last line, Mita Sochu Jani, this fear left his mind. Fear of what? Rakhe Rau, meaning, to bind, this bondage that he would have been in, due to becoming king, it left his mind. Get it? So, hopefully now you understand word for word what it is, and you see how the translation is put together. Okay? Moving on to the Doha, Nava Gayandu. So, Nava, new, fresh. Nava Gayandu, elephant. Raghubir Manu. Raghubir, Sriram, Manu, mind. So, like a young elephant, the mind of Raghubir. Raju Alana Saman. So, Raju means Raja, the job of the king. Raju Alana now means a rope or a tie, something that you use to bind something. And saman, the word saman means, looks like, just like, equivalent to. So this line means that Sri Ram's mind was like a little elephant that you now caught, a little baby elephant. And becoming king was like the rope that you use to tie this young elephant. Okay? You understand? Bondage. The next line, Chuta Jani. So freedom, Chuta Jani, he knew Bana is forest, Gavanu going, Suni when he heard. So when he heard of this freedom of his banishment to the forest, you get it? When he heard of this freedom of the banishment to the forest, then Ura Anandu Adhikan. Ura Anandu. Anand, we all know Anand means bliss, joy. Adhikan means in excess, so overjoyed. So Ura Anandu Adhikan, he was blissful and overjoyed. In summary then, Sri Ram's mind was like a young newly caught elephant, and becoming king was like the rope that ties down this young elephant, meaning this young elephant wants to see the world, but becoming king was tying him down. So, when he heard of this freedom of the banishment to the forest, Ura Anandu Adhikan, he was blissful, he was overjoyed. Good? Now, as you could see, translation is not easy work, but that is only, I say, a quarter of the job. Now what? Now what? What have we learned? And this is where the analysis part comes in. So let us take it from the top again and go through. The strategy here, we're going through multiple times, and we have different layers of meaning, but remember, we are focusing on taking away points that we can apply. And I'm going to put things to you, or at least my interpretation of it, and if it makes sense to you, take it, okay? We begin. So Sri Ram's journey, as we mentioned, is our journey. Yes? At different points in Sri Ram's journey, they represent situations that we find ourselves in life. The question is, when things get us down, so remember, the inhabitants of Ayodhya, Puri, they had expectations of Sri Ram becoming king. Sri Ram himself, he knew, okay, I'm going to be coronated king. But then what happened? Keikei was thrown in the mix, and the opposite happened. He wasn't king anymore, he had to go to the forest, everybody depressed. Yes? Now Sri Ram wasn't depressed, everybody else. So here we could relate to everybody else, meaning what? You've heard it mentioned, Asha Dukhasya Karanam. It means any expectation that we have, it always leads to dukha. Dukha, a feeling of narrowness, sorrow, depression. In other words, devotees, the Hindu way, the Eastern way, Eastern philosophy, you're setting yourself up for disappointment if you have high expectations of the world. Expectations of people, expectations of things. Isn't it true? Even your own husband, wife, children, you expect them to do certain things, they are going to disappoint you because the world doesn't behave in the way that you want. So, I am not saying don't have expectations. Come on, we have to be real. You can't just suddenly have no expectations. Some people do have great expectations. That's a book, right? The trick here is to reduce these kind of expectations you have of anything around you bringing you this inner joy. Happiness is something, or peace is something not to be gained afresh from the world. It is something that is always there. You yourself would be preventing it from happening. Okay? So, Asha Dukhasya Karanam. So, Sri Ram, remember, understood this. So, as opposed to everybody else, Think of yourself right now, coronavirus, a situation, hardship. Everybody worried this and that. I don't know if I go dead. I don't want to get this, that. Let other people worry about that. They're in the Yuddha. But the Ayuddha state, the state of no conflict, is when you understand Asha Dukhasya Karanam. Expectation of anything to happen your way will lead to your disappointment, your own disappointment. Okay. So then, when we're in this state now, the first thing is to look at it and say, you know what? I'm in this particular problem. I expected something. It didn't happen. Okay. What's the next step? Step 2. What did Sriram do next? What did he do? He went to see his mother. So Sriram goes to his mother, Kaushalya. Now, those of you who were here for Saraswati Jayanti would recall I mentioned Maha Saraswati, whose name was Kaushiki. What does Kaushiki mean? Anybody recalls? It is very similar to Kaushalya. So Sriram going to his mother, Kaushalya, here represents what do we have to fall back on when we are faced with troubles? You go to your mother. Now, this might be, a mundane point, but I could tell you, when you're in trouble and you go by your real mother, you get a big ease up, Me, for example, when I have worries or something is bothering me, my mother knows. When I go and speak to her or just give her a call or something, I feel better. So very mundane point. But people who have their mothers or someone who functions like a mother, I noticed I didn't say father, and I could tell you from experience, children don't take on their father too much because, he's kind of, the gyani, cut and dry and do this and try to fix problems. The mother has heart. The mother understands. She has empathy. She listens. So Sriram, first the father tell him do so. And, Sriram said, all right, I will do what my father says. But when I'm really troubled, emotionally affected, I go to my mother. Mundane point. But the deeper significance here, devotees, Kaushalya, if you don't have a mother to talk to, what do you do? Kaushalya means sattva, purity, right thinking, but the real meaning of Kaushalya is skillfulness. So, what skillfulness we talking about? What skillfulness? Sriram goes to, like what we are doing here, the scriptures, right? That storehouse of knowledge and practice of skillfulness, meaning that for years you've been here, you've been hearing things, learning things. By now you should be skillful enough to solve your own problems. You should have some knowledge. And if you don't, go back to the book. Go back to the book. So you see what we're all doing here? We are doing Sriram going back to Kaushalya. We are all going back to the source. We are going back to being skillful. Okay? So, to summarize this part, the 2 points. Sriram goes to Kaushalya. Go to your mother if you have trouble. Talk it out. Secondly, this skillfulness internally, this knowledge, that is what you have to rely on. And I would add in here, if you don't have a mother, of course, and additionally, your guru, the right guru to guide. I wouldn't belabor that point. Okay? Is it clear? Okay. Now, we go on. Now, before we move on, devotees, at this point here, I will just take a slight digression and address a very important question, especially a question that young people have. Teenagers, young adults, especially, okay? No offense to the older ones, though it may be applicable to you. If I were to ask you, why do you get up every day? What is your motivation for doing what you do? What would you say? Think carefully what I'm asking. When you get up in the morning, do you look forward to the day ahead? Or you're just doing what you have to do, just moving like a robot, but you have no sense of motivation, or I'm going to use an important word, purpose. All right. I like a little feedback, so let me ask, how many of you here currently, and you could ask yourselves at home, how many of you currently enjoy what you do? Raise your hand, let me see. Be honest. How many of you currently enjoy what you do? Raise your hand high, let me see. I'm talking about your work, your career, whatnot. Whatever you do every day, how many of you enjoy? Okay. And I'm assuming the rest of you don't. How many of you here are retired? Oh God? All right. So we have the retirement section on this side. Okay? All right. Now, the question is, many people have, especially young people, is, what should I do with my life? This will lead into the katha just now, but we have to address this question first. Because it's been asked, young people, I don't know what to do. I have subjects to choose. Should I do something to go and make money? Should I just do what I like? What should I do with my life? Now, I'll make this point here. You see, money is important. Right? People who say money not important, they know money important. But money is important up to a point. If money and riches in the world used to bring people happiness, then all of the people who are rich and who are celebrities would be happy. But the data shows otherwise. Actually, most of them are quite unhappy. They're really, really rich, but really, really depressed. Or the worst, they're really, really rich, but really, really stupid. And I make no apologies for that. Stupid meaning no analysis. They just have money. They have resources. So that can't be it, can it? All right. Now, I'm going to try to answer this question because when I wear my other hat as a lecturer, students ask as well, so what I should do? What should I study? What should I become? How do we answer this question? What I like to do is, mix Eastern philosophy together with some Western philosophy, psychology. I put these things together and extract, just like the Hunts, what I think is the best answer for me. So you can see now, young people, if this works for you. There is a Japanese philosophy. Now, back in the day, thanks to my father, we did jujitsu right here in the temple. And so, we learned a little bit about Japanese philosophy, karate, right? Karate means, nothing in your hand, so fighting empty-handed, karate. I'm going to use another word the Japanese use, and it's called Ikigai. Now, Ikigai doesn't mean a nasty fella. You get that, right? Oh, look, he's an Ikigai. No. Ikigai is a Japanese word, and it means your purpose. What gives your life meaning? And this became popular in the world when they studied centenarians, people who live more than 100 years old, specifically Okinawa, Japan. So, everybody now wants to know, well, how to live long, how to be happy. Everybody wants this. But people need a method, how? So they did studies in Okinawa, Japan, and they found a nice village there, old people, no big set of technology or anything. But what these people had, they described something called Ikigai, their purpose, their reason for being. So I asked just now, what is your purpose? What is your reason for being? Because human beings cannot exist just like that. You will be unhappy. And we all know, because COVID-19 has removed purpose from many people's lives. And look what has happened. We now face a mental health pandemic. Another one. So, Ikigai, what is it? When you get up every day, and you look forward to that day to making some sort of contribution, the doing, that is referred to as your Ikigai, your sense of purpose. Or let me come back now, your dharma. Ikigai equals dharma. Same thing. I'm just using different words to try to impact your mind. The question is, all right, good Pandit Umesh, nice. I need to find my purpose because the purpose of life is to find your purpose. Yes? So how to do it? How to do it? Some people could be in their old age and still don't know what their purpose is. Right? And so what I'm saying is a life of meaning is what you want. A life of happiness is not what you want, nor what will you get. You'll be happy, sad, but the constant thing throughout your life is a life of purpose, a life of meaning. Now, there are 4 questions you need to ask, and if you could find an answer that satisfies these 4 questions, you would have found your Ikigai, your purpose for being. What makes you get up every day and keep going, no matter your age? Question number 1. What do you love to do? Now, young people make this mistake. They go on Instagram or YouTube and see somebody else doing something or gaming and go, whoa, I like that. But the thing is, you like what you see in somebody else doing. Is it what you genuinely like to do? When I was young, I used to like to draw, sketch. And I would spend hours doing that because I entered a certain flow state. I forgot everything else, Saraswati, when I was doing that. And that is how you know what you really love to do. So don't let what other people say influence your mind. You have to figure out what you love to do, not what you think you should do, what you actually love to do. Okay? Number 1. Number 2, what am I good at? Now this is a good one. Plenty people like to sing. Are they good at it? Right. So not only you have to like something, but you have to put in the practice and you have to become good at it. What are you good at? Okay? The third question you have to ask, so these two are very personal. What do I love to do and what am I good at? But the second two has to do with the world because you have to be realistic. What does the world need? In other words, what skills that you have of these things that you love to do and you're good at are in high demand? Right? Because if you have all these skills but nobody wants it from an occupational point of view, a job point of view, then you have nothing. So what does the world need? Do we need inspiration, problem solvers, leaders, etc.? And the fourth question is, what can you get paid for? So again, money is important to satisfy your basic needs. After that is just hedonistic, right? So a certain amount is important in order to live. So what can you get paid for? Because no matter what you say and what you do, poverty is the worst kind of suffering, isn't it? From Ramcharitamanas. So 4 things again. Ask yourself. 1, what do you love to do? You may love to read a book. You may love to write. You may want to make the world healthier. You may want to spiritually help others. And this is the purpose for your entire life. It is not your job. Okay? It is not what you do. It is your purpose for your entire life. And it could change. It could change. But it is still there. Secondly, what you are good at. So teaching, healing, painting, singing, what you could really do well. The third is, what does the world need? Inspiration, problem solvers, workers, leaders, whatever. And finally, fourth, what can you get paid for? A doctor, teacher, lawyer, engineer, writer, artist, coach, whatever it may be. Because you have to earn an income to survive. Yes? Now, what I would also say is that I'm speaking now to a younger generation. Way in the past, if your father was a farmer, what would you be? A farmer. If your family were baking, you would be a baker. Right? So the children would follow what the parents would do. But now, with the schooling system, things have changed and people now have a choice. So now we have a difficulty. The father could be a businessman, the son could be a lawyer. The daughter could be an accountant. You now have a choice what to do. And that's okay. But the thing about it, what you should remember, you need to link back what you want to do as a career to your purpose. Okay? So, in other words, what I'm saying, if you only go out there and do things for money, you would not be happy. But whether in bad financial times and whatnot, if you're still fulfilling that inner purpose that you have, you would still be okay. And also, I would say, retirement as a concept has gone away. Our scriptures, Eastern philosophy, there's nothing like retirement, you know. Retirement has to do with this model, this Western model, where you work for a period of your life, you save up your money, and then you stop doing anything. That is not what it is. Many older people die from lack of purpose, lack of social connection. This sense of purpose, like the Okinawans, must stay with you till the day you die. Take the Paramacharya, for example. Take my guru, my Aja. Pandit right down to the end. People say, Baba, rest now, this, that. And I say, yeah, rest too. But I know if this is your purpose in your life, do not take away people's purpose from them. You understand? So when we have to care for older ones and whatnot, don't say, Mommy, you stay home, don't do nothing. Mommy, I want to stay home and don't do nothing. People can't do that. You have to have a sense of purpose. So whether you choose to go into gardening, the arts, go into scriptures, whatever it is be, you see this Ikigai I'm talking about? Your sense of purpose, right through your life, right through, it must be there. And then, with that life, of purpose, of meaning, then you would be okay. Make sense? Right. Now, I'm not saying be stupid, just go quit your job and go and sit down and start sketching people by the side of the road. You could do that. But unfortunately, and let's be realistic, I'm talking to the Trinidadians, the Tobagonians, we live on a small island. You can't do everything here. So what you do, you have certain jobs available, young people. You have to earn a living, so do that. But many people here, you have your working hours and then you have your non-working hours. You pursue your passions during that time. Yes? So we could speak more about this, but let me not belabor the point. So I've looked at purpose. Now let me come back and tie it into the katha here now and try to figure out Sriram and this fourfold happiness that he experienced. I know it is a lot, so I'm just going to summarize it now and put it very briefly. Sriram thought his purpose was to become king. Maybe, maybe not. But he was happy he had to go to the forest, not so? So Sriram's purpose then couldn't be to become king. Is that a purpose? Based on what I just said? No, that is a job, something to do, a responsibility. So Sriram experienced fourfold happiness. And in my mind, we could relate this fourfold happiness through two lenses. Okay? So let me not confuse you. The first one you've heard of is known as the Purush Arth in terms of Sanatan Dharma. It said we seek four things. Dharma, which is righteousness. Arth, material wealth. Kama, fulfilling legitimate desires, pleasures. And moksha, liberation. Four. Okay? Let's apply. Sriram experienced fourfold happiness. One, dharma. He was going to the forest to fulfill his father's word. It was based on moral values, a righteous act. Checkbox. Good. Number two, arth, economic values. He was leaving the kingdom with all its riches to go to the forest with nothing, but he was happy. Why? Read into it. He was happy because he is showing here that material things like that, wealth, kingdom, leadership, all these things would not make you happy. Checkbox. Third one, karma, pleasure. Again, in the palace, you have all these pleasurable things around you. But Sriram's thinking, what lasting pleasures can we have? How many desires can you really fulfill? They need to be reduced. Give it up. Be happy. So karma, by leaving karma behind, Sriram was going to the forest. He was happy. Checkbox. Last one, moksha, liberation, spiritual values. Liberation means, devotees, being in everything but being not affected by anything. It don't mean going anywhere, doing anything, you sit down right here. It's just your state of mind. Either you're sticky or you're non-sticky. Sticky, not icky. So, liberation means not letting the world get to you. You realize you are apart from it. So Sriram is happy, staying in the kingdom, going to the forest. Anywhere. I am not all this. So, moksha, he was liberated, meaning his mind, that is liberation. He shows, checkbox. So to summarize this, Sriram is showing that you have four, dharma, arth, kama, and moksha. To be happy, arth and kama are to be de-emphasized, and dharma and moksha are to be emphasized. Fourfold happiness. Make sense? Now you could apply this to you. As you get older in life, younger, you want arth and kama, yes, go. Experience it. But as you get older, the arth and the kama, meaning running after material things and the desires, they must be reduced. And focus on the dharma, the righteousness, spirituality, and moksha, knowing who you are. Yes? And finally, devotees, almost out of time, the second lens. You may not be aware, but Sriram, we've done this in the past, Yog Vashisht. he was tutored by his guru. So earlier on, just as you have Arjuna being depressed and being, lectured to psychotherapy, as I said, by Sri Krishna, it was the same with Sriram, except it was him and his guru, Guru Vashisht. So Sriram was depressed, wasn't eating whatnot, and his guru gave him various lessons. And at the end, Sriram, it is said, became realized when he was young. This scripture is known as the Yoga Vashisht, which is, if not the longest, the second longest Hindu scripture, in case you weren't aware. Now, in Yoga Vashisht, Guru Vashisht said to Sriram, and this again has another secret, fourfold. Why fourfold happiness? Guru Vashisht said to Sriram, Sriram, there are 4 guards at the gates of liberation, meaning 4 sentries, guards that you have to pass through before you're liberated. What are they? Shama, meaning peace of mind. Vichara, meaning self-inquiry. Santosha, meaning contentment. And Sadhu Sangamaha, meaning satsang, association with the holy ones, with people of good values. So again, let's apply this here. Could this be the fourfold happiness that Sri Ram is thinking about? Shama, peace of mind. Sri Ram would be calm when he's by himself in the forest. Sita, Ma, Lakshman, all these embody our psychology, okay? Wouldn't go into that. But by himself in the bun, in the forest, whether in the world or not, your mental bun, your mental forest, peace of mind, quiet, checkbox. Second one, vichar, self-inquiry, which is the true knowledge. When you buy yourself in this bun, in your mental bun, you have the time now to seek vichar, self-inquiry. Who am I? What is my relation to all of this? Third, santosh, which is known as contentment, the best gain. He would be content with very little, not so? Contentment, and you've heard this, is not running after things. Is if you could do it very little, you're content. The person, devotees, who is not in debt is content. Isn't it? It's not how much money you're making. When you have no debts, you don't owe anybody anything, you are content. So Sriram, have very little, I'll be content. And Sadhu Sangamaha, nice last one. So checkbox on Santosh, Sadhu Sangamaha, associate with the holy ones. When Sriram went to the forest, what happened? He encountered so many holy ones, friends, associates, people he could learn from. But not only that, he also encountered his demons. Meaning what? Personal application. When you go to this bun, you go to the forest as Sriram in your mind, then you associate with the holy ones and you extract their good qualities, they pull you forward, but also the enemies, the demons you have inside yourself, they become apparent to you. And what you have to do? Take out your bow and arrow, shoot. Okay? So, in summary, devotees, we just look at one chaupai, one doha. But look at how much we could extract, so many lessons. Now, some of you mightn't be able to recall all. You could look back at the recording. What you should try to do, write it down. Okay? So when you do activity yourself, go back, listen. What are these 4 things? Apply it to yourself, like you check boxes, you check marks. The 4 guards at the gates of liberation. Go back, ask yourself. But the nice thing about the 4 guards is that you need to make a friend with only one, and the other 3, they become your friend as well. Pick one. Shama, peace of mind, maybe a little difficult. Vichar, self-inquiry, maybe a little difficult. Santosh, contentment, maybe I could try to practice that a bit. Or Sadhu Sangamaha, what you're supposedly doing now, associating with those, as I said, that will pull you forward, And my daughter Vaishnavi made a good point to me, it was last night. She said, Daddy, you said people come to the temple to lose. I said, yes, but you gain too. It's what you lose and what you gain. So you come to lose your sense of self, this I, realize you're not that. But what do you gain? This knowledge, the highest wisdom, the highest experience. Okay? So with this here, devotees, I will conclude for today. Bole Sri Raja Ramachandra ki Jai.